Everyone's talking about this post that was made in the dead of night by Elon Musk. Take a look at this. So this was around 3:40 a.m. Eastern Time. Elon Musk says, "I regret some of my posts about President Trump last week." He says they went too far. So just reading from the piece in the New York Times reporting that Trump and Musk spoke on the phone on Monday night. But you just saw there Musk saying in this post that he regretted some of his posts and comments about President Trump last week, which had led the president to disparage the tech billionaire, a feud that played out in real time on social media. Musk said on his X platform some of his posts about Trump went too far. You saw that. Musk called Trump Monday night and they spoke briefly. That's according to a White House official. Now, allies of the two men have been urging them to reconcile. The spat initially focused on Musk's criticism of Trump's signature domestic policy bill, which he condemned as a quote-unquote disgusting abomination because it will add substantially to the national debt. But the spat devolved quickly into petty and outlandish attacks. Musk, for example, suggested that the Trump administration had not released files on Jeffrey Epstein because Trump was named in them. And that was a pretty bombshell report that Musk posted out there for his millions of followers on social media. In the meantime, here we do have a live picture outside the White House as we await for President Trump's departure to the Kennedy Center. We're going to bring into the conversation, though, right now, our friend at Barron's, Al Root. He is kind of our Elon Musk whisperer, so to speak. We talk to Al on all things Elon Musk. So, Al, bear with us. We don't want to miss the president's departure to the Kennedy Center. But I have to ask, is this a thaw? Is this a reset? Is this a détente? How would you describe it?
Hi, Andrew. I like the word détente. I mean, sometimes it seems it was such a wild week. You laid it out quite well. It just sort of played out real time. And, like so much with Elon Musk or Tesla, there's no precedent, right? You don't have a lot of precedent for, the richest person in the world feuding with the most powerful person in the world. It just doesn't happen all that often, if ever. So it was really wild. This détente, I sort of likened it to a bit of a divorce, right? Elon has left his position, and it was a very close relationship, and then it deteriorated very, very quickly. And now they're sort of on the other side where they're sort of getting back together for the kids and being civil. So I wouldn't expect Elon to have sort of the kind of role he had in the Trump administration in the early days. But I think we've reached sort of a more happy equilibrium. I'm just surprised that this entire thing unfolded in basically the course of a week.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was a surprise to many that Elon Musk posted that, like I said, in the dead of night. And maybe, we're just coming to this for viewers for the first time. Maybe they didn't see that post just yet because I was struck by that because we were speaking just, last Thursday. It got very nasty, very personal. And now we're hearing from some of the reporting that allies of both of them were working behind the scenes to get this resolved. And so I guess that effort was somewhat successful here. I got to ask, though, about Musk's role within the Trump orbit, not necessarily within the government, because he's no longer a special government employee. What is it going to be in the Trump orbit amongst allies? Are there still camps that have formed, the Musk camp, the Trump camp, or no?
Well, I think that the reason to bother getting back together, why do these two need each other at all? I mean, was another post that was somewhat offensive to the president that was talking about, I got you elected, and if, people pass this big, beautiful bill, I'm going to work to unelect or fire the politicians that blow up the deficit, right? So, Elon and Donald Trump, President Trump, don't always agree, right? They disagree a little bit on tariffs. They disagree on national debt and the big, beautiful bill. And those disagreements sort of coexisted. But if you think about, Musk's position of, being the richest person in the world is still a position of power. So the alliance still makes sense. There's money for candidates. Um, there is money for different races. You know, Elon supported the judge, the conservative judge in Wisconsin. That didn't go President Trump's way. However, that sort of support is a good reason to keep Elon in the orbit. And from Elon's perspective, self-driving cars regulation, smoothing the path for SpaceX. I know President Trump talked about removing contracts, but again, you know, some of Elon's businesses do business with the government, and it makes sort of a lot of sense to have a civil relationship. So there's reasons on both sides that you would want this smoothed over if you were a Musk advisor or if you were a President Trump advisor, and they're probably in a bit of a better position now.
So those threats to cancel Musk's federal contracts, do you think those are over?
So, you know, there's always so much going on. So the EV tax credit, you know, that is removed in the big, beautiful bill, the purchase tax credit, that's $7,500. You go out and lease an EV, that's available to any EV. I think that's going to go. People knew about that. So that's one of the things people say, oh, you know, contracts, the SpaceX stuff, SpaceX gets a lot of money from the government. I personally, you know, pound the table. They earn that money. I mean, remember, they just took the astronauts back from the the International Space Station.
Right.
SpaceX is the dominant launch provider in the world. You know, it's not going to save the U.S. a lot of money, and SpaceX is sort of the global leader in that business, so that doesn't make a lot of sense. You could lose some defense business in the future for SpaceX if this feud continued. But again, I think those threats were more just in the heat of the fight versus anything that would come to fruition and sort of impact one of the companies.
Yeah, and just to give viewers a sense, we're 10 minutes past the top of the hour. We're waiting for the president and the first lady to depart the White House for the Kennedy Center for the opening premiere of Les Mis tonight. We were kind of discussing the changes that the Trump administration has made to kind of the Kennedy Center leadership board and its direction. So, Al, I might have to cut you off if we see the first couple, but I have to ask you this. What about the complexion of Doge now? What is its mission now? Is it the same without him?
I think the honest answer, first of all, I can't believe I would be preempted for the president. What's going on? I think the honest answer is Doge will lose some of the impetus behind it without a figure like Musk. Musk clashed very publicly with Marco Rubio. He is very dedicated to the cuts. He believes very deeply in reducing the budget. And, you know, I might feel that way too, but I'm not Elon Musk. So I think that Doge will continue. They'll continue to rack up savings. I think it might morph into sort of modernizing government systems, right? Making them more computer-based and user-friendly. So there'll be reports about that. But, you know, remember, Musk said, you know, aspirationally, you know, 2 trillion, 1 trillion, let's save this much money, fraud, waste, and abuse. I think those numbers are sort of gone. And so now we're looking at more modest savings and sort of just a more modest Doge effort.
So, Al, what about Musk's supporters that he brought into the Trump White House? You know, I'm talking about David Sachs. We know how his preferred NASA pick, Jared Isaacman, we know how that ended. Trump withdrew his name from consideration to lead NASA. Where do they stand in the Trump orbit? Will they also be on the way out soon?
Well, Isaac, to your point, Isaac, that was one of the, you know, straws that may or may not have broken the camel's back, depending on what you believe. So that was a bit of a surprise and a sign that things were fraying. You know, on David Sachs of it all, I think that from a cryptocurrency perspective, this administration will continue to go down some of the roads, and David Sachs is sort of an advisor on that front. So tough to say. I could see somebody like David Sachs sticking around, and some of the other advisors, people who work at Doge, carrying on. So I don't think it's sort of a clean house moment.
Okay.
And again, I think the feud sort of settling down gives everybody the ability to sort of figure out what they really want to do next. But on the crypto stuff, I think that'll continue in this administration. Doge is a lessened impetus, and then Musk will just sort of fade into the background and be a supporter from afar. That would be my prediction.
My observation here, I mean, while we're watching this live picture, this camera outside the White House. I mean, before this disagreement between Musk and Trump, this would be one of the kind of key events, kind of your standard event that you would see Musk accompany Trump to, wouldn't you? You're not going to see that much anymore, I would imagine.
No, I don't think he'll be taking up space in Mar-a-Lago like he was. And if you remember, if you go sort of all the way back, these things play out in weeks and days. So all the way back to April, or even reporting in March that Musk was going to transition, go back to his companies. President Trump said in a news conference, eventually he'll want to go back to his companies. Then in April on Tesla's conference call, he said, "Listen, I'm going to step back. I'm going to spend more time running my companies." He's very busy. He's got robo taxis. He's got Starship. He's got XAI and X merging. So he's got a lot to do. And then, there was the press conference at the White House where he got the key to the White House. They thanked each other. And then it sort of deteriorated. So, there was this process of sort of stepping back and spending more time at his companies. And I think from a Musk perspective and from an investor perspective, from his businesses, that's what you'll see. You'll see him more focused on his companies. He's obviously remained relatively political.
All right, we may have lost Al Root's signal there, unfortunately. We'll see if it corrects itself. That happens sometimes during these live Zoom interviews. We're at the mercy of the technology here. In the meantime, though, we do have this live picture still yet again as we await President Trump and the First Lady's departure from the White House to the Kennedy Center. Speaking of the Kennedy Center, we also have a live picture there on the red carpet for the Kennedy Center Gala, which will premiere tonight. Les Miserables, of course. Personally, just one of my favorite musicals. And so we've been seeing some of these Trump cabinet secretaries come and go. We're working on getting Al Root back just so he can finish his point here. I think we might have him back. And so, Al, we're at the mercy of Zoom technology. But, Al, if you could just finish your point.
Where did I leave off?
You were talking about whether or not we'll be seeing Musk with Trump much at all.
Hey, I was talking to myself there for a second. I think that, part of this healing I was saying, happened on X when Musk started liking some of President Trump's posts criticizing Gavin Newsom. Musk supported the president's policy on the LA riots. So I would think that you would see more of that sort of support from afar, and that Musk would remain focused on his companies, which is what investors wanted, what he started talking about all the way back in April. So I would say that Musk will go back to sort of being a businessman who supports Trump, and a little more publicly than other people, because Musk is Musk and he values his ability to say what he wants when he wants, and you'll see that sort of show up on the X platform. But I don't think there will be as many Les Mis visits, Mar-a-Lago visits, a little X in the Oval Office, Musk's young son that comes. So you'll probably see less of that.
All right, Al Root, can't thank you enough. I know we went a little long there. Always appreciate your insight. We'll talk soon. Thanks, Al.
Thanks, Andrew.